charlixcx is one of the biggest forces to be reckoned with in the pop music industry. Brat is the highest ranked album of the year by critics, and in a year with releases from Beyonce, Taylor Swift, Ariana Grande, Billie Eilish, it seems like all anyone can talk about is bratsummer. But Charli's career did not start out this way. Brat is her 6th studio album. So what changed? What made the story of Brat so much different and frankly more commercially successful than anything she had ever done in the past? To me, it was the world building. She built a story around this album. You can feel exactly who the type of person this album is for, what they do, the problems they have, the insecurities they face, where they like to go, who they like to hang out with, what type of other music they listen to. Like, it made them feel like you are a part of a specific group. This album doesn't just make people want to dance and move their bodies, it moves their hearts and their minds. Great world building is great storytelling. And at its core, music is all about telling a story. And making people understand what that story is part of being a great musician. And the way you do that is through music marketing. One of the biggest challenges artists face in the current state of music is understanding this fact. The music you create and the way you tell that story are two halves of the same whole. One cannot exist without the other. And it doesn't matter if you have the greatest song of all time and nobody hears it, or if 1,000, 100,000, 1 million people listen to a song that's absolutely garbage, right? They need to coincide. There needs to be a strong message and takeaway in the music, but also an ability for you to tell that story to people and make them excited about it and make them want to find it and think introspectively on it. And charlixcx understands this better than anyone. In part 1 of this series, we talked about the music and the lore and how she got to where she is and really like the meanings and themes behind this album, the creation of Brat and the meaning behind her music today. Today, we want to look at the other half of that coin. How Brat skyrocketed to popularity largely in part due to the marketing genius of charlixcx and how she told this story in a masterpiece type of way. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Nicky. This is part 2 of our series on Brat and charlixcx. I am so thankful you guys are here. This is video 3 on our channel, which is so crazy to think about. But I love it and I'm happy to be here. Also, we just started Spotify, so please give it a follow up at the link on screen and let's talk about Brat. So the marketing of Brat really had multiple stages to it. The first was the 360 Brat burner account, which she started in August of 2022. And this was essentially just a private Instagram account that she would only make public for like very short periods of time to let people follow it and then would make it private again for months. And the point of this was that she wanted to create a space where she felt she could like openly talk about the music and what she was doing and be vulnerable in a way that was like really only for fans, like wasn't going to get like clipped and turned into a news headline or a story. But this is the introduction of Brat. I mean, the account is literally 360 Brat, which is the name of the album and then the first song on the album. And in this, she had so many, I mean, just amazing like screenshots and things like I want to put on screen, but people had really even asked a lot about her relationship with Lorde and a lot of the comparisons that they had faced and if it's something they'd ever talked about or if it's something they ever thought about making music about. And so much of these questions ended up being the reason she reaches out to Lorde later on and creates the Girl So Confusing version with her. So like it was so cool to see this like not just one-way interaction, but the fact that she really wanted it to be like a community. Like it's like not just her talking at people, but people talking to her and her directly responding in turn. And also, I think that this was, again, like one of the smartest decisions she could have made because it really made people feel a part of this experience 2 years before the album ever even came out. So going to the second most genius thing, one of the most genius things charlixcx did was the Boiler Room set. The Boiler Room set, I feel like, was so viral for so many reasons. One, she holds the record for the most amount of people ever trying to sign up for the tickets. I think the venue only holds like 400 people. And I think they said there was almost like 40,000 signups or something ridiculous. No other artist who's ever done a Boiler Room set has ever had that much hype and sign up for it. And in this set, she plays a lot of songs, but also teases some things off of the new album, which is obviously like artists tease stuff all the time, but the way she did it was genius because she obviously played, Addison Rae was there, Julia Fox was there. We didn't know Julia Fox. One of the reasons I think she was there because she's in the 360 music video, but Addison Rae, again, someone she collaborates with the Von Dutch remix, was planting these seeds that were all pieces of the album, even if people hadn't connected the dots yet. I also think, too, it's really just this idea of what I like to call FOMO marketing, which is selling the idea of an exclusive experience. Like, you almost just look at that and you see all these people in a room and it's all viral on your For You page the next day, and all you can think of is like, I want to be there. I wish I could have gone. Why wasn't I one of those people? Like, it's so cool, blah, 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 blah. And because you can't be there, the only way you can take a piece of that and like enjoy that experience is through the music or through buying a product, whatever. For this, it's music. So it's like you couldn't have been there, but like you can hear what it was like to be there, which I thought was so interesting. Also, one of the things she did that was really, really smart was she played the song Spring Breakers, which ends up being on the deluxe version later on. However, she played the song and it was like instantly a fan favorite. I think it was one of the ones that like really went viral early on, I remember, was people like clipping this song, be like, oh my God, new Charli song. And then once the album came out, it almost like people were like angry because they all like were like, why are you gonna play this song and have all of us like it if you didn't end up releasing it? But then once she releases the deluxe version, everybody went crazy for it. So like that again too is I think she had really planned out how the album was going to be, how the deluxe was going to be, and was intentionally making people excited about something they weren't going to get until much later on. Next is the Brat album cover. And the Brat album cover is probably one of the most genius marketing things we've seen of this year. And it's hilarious because people hated it at first. They hated it. I remember there being so much outrage on Twitter, calling it lazy, calling it boring, saying I could have made this in a Word document, but it ended up being one of the best marketing decisions of all time. And charlixcx's Brat cover is a perfect example for how to predict whether something is going to take off or not by using the color theory, which is this theory in creative direction where if our attention spans are getting so increasingly short, one of the only ways to truly be memorable is to tie yourself into things people see in their everyday life. One of the easiest ways to do that just being very common colors. And the reason this is so popular in the music industry specifically is because music is the only platform that's the only art form that's inherently audio. Like you're not watching anything unless it's a music video. So artists have to be a lot more intentional and deliberate with tying themselves to a specific color or something. You see how Olivia Rodrigo has done this with purple. You see how Ice Spice did it with orange and the orange hair. You see how Billie Eilish did it with this recent album in blue, or how she always changes her hair. You see how Beyonce did it with silver for Renaissance Act 1. So many artists have done this in the past. And the reason this also works so well is because then they can now take that color, put that color on anything, and it becomes their version of that. And this is exactly what we saw with the Brat album cover. People went crazy for it. They were like you would see a random car and it would just be green and people were like, oh, Brat mobile. People would see like anything that shade of green. I would literally see like 5 Instagram stories a day of just random people. I'd be like, Brat, and it was just some random green thing. And it ended up being so genius, like the millions of dollars worth of free promotion, I'm sure, that she got simply because she picked that very specific green color that nobody else was using right now, so that anytime people saw that green color in the real world, the only thing they could think of was charlixcx. And that was such a genius decision. Again, like it was so good. And it's so funny to me that it was so hated so early on, but now is like kind of iconic. And if you even look at some of the merch she has released, like just this towel, it's so funny to me. It's literally just a towel that's green and just has towel on it. And it's like selling for like $60. And I'm honestly, I'm sure it will sell out. I'm sure it will sell out. And it's like that couldn't have happened unless the album cover was exactly this. You know what I mean? And that is like such a genius and intentional decision that she used. And I think for other artists or aspiring musicians out there, think about ways you can do that. Again, I don't think you need to change your artistry to do it, but when there is a very easy way to tie yourself into one color or just something you feel you resonate with, do it. Next, going off of that, was the Brat Wall. And the Brat Wall was another the Brat Wall was like probably one of the most genius marketing things we've seen this year also too, where one day she literally just starts a random TikTok live of a plain green wall. And originally, people did not know the location. So people who found it in New York City ended up going viral, making TikToks about it. Like, oh my God, I found this wall that she was talking about, blah, 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 which is again, generating millions of views with free promotion again. Because if she had said where it was, people wouldn't have been that interested in going to discover it, nor would it have been as viral once somebody finally did, right? So this started a trend of people in New York City going on pilgrimages to this Brat Wall. It is also genius to me how she recorded the painting process. Like, she didn't just post the finished product. She went live and filmed it very slowly being painted, like one letter at a time. And the reason I think this was so smart is because it made it go absolutely viral on Twitter, because like one letter would get painted of something and then everybody would tweet about it and like speculate what it was going to be. And then like another letter would get painted somewhere else. And it was like they were trying to like almost ad lib it together and speculate what it was going to be. And this is also something she did on the Brat Wall when the Lord remix came out, where she starts like writing, you know, like a few letters, and then people were going crazy, like, is it going to spell Lord? Oh my God, are we getting this crossover? Blah, 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 blah. And like, had she just posted it, she wouldn't have had like 6 hours of people writing tweets, speculating, writing their theories, and changing their theories when a new letter came out, blah, blah, blah. Like, I think that it doing that also, because it was a very slow and gradual process, that means people had to stay and watch the live stream longer, which means that it boosted its retention on the video, and in turn is like boosting it in the algorithm, because they're like, oh my God, people have been sitting and watching this for an hour and a half. It must be a super interesting live, but it's because they're trying to decipher what it means. So I think that was like such a genius idea, to not give people the answer, but to just document the process of like creating the answer. Then on May 2nd, she tweets out the wall's location and makes a surprise appearance to play 360. And again, this is her doing this FOMO marketing tactic that I think is so well. Like, one of the things that she did so genius is like, anytime she was making an appearance for this album, it was only in crowds of like hundreds of people. So it almost looked like everywhere she went, she was followed by like mobs of people all like partying and dancing and singing. And that, to me, again, creates like this feeling of the album, even though we didn't know what the album was yet, right? It's almost like everywhere she goes, people can't help but be dancing and partying, because that's how amazing and magnificent this music is about to be. And even just this like one shot of her, she's like on top of a car and just completely surrounded by people. Again, like, it was such a FOMO experience. I remember looking at that and be like, that is like the coolest looking thing ever. Like, I just want to be like, I want to be in a crowd of a bunch of people like screaming and dancing like that. Like, they look like they're having a good time. Also with that too, we had the 360 music video, and the 360 music video is like the blueprint for the future of music videos. One of Your Girls by Troye Sivan did this really well with Ross Lynch. I think Look at Your Woman with Role Model did this really well recently, where they are referencing other trending popular things in culture through the song, right? So for 360 example, it's like, I'm Everywhere, I'm So Julia, talking about Julia Fox, and then including her in the video. One, you are not just now appealing to your fan base. There's also this overlap of this other person's fan base. Number two, it creates this idea of like who the album is for. So like Brat is very like pop girl. It's a Brat summer. It's party girl. So like she has these like internet it girls, right? It's Rachel Senna. It's Julia Fox. It's Gabriette. It's Emma Chamberlain. Like these people, all of these people being put together is almost like an Avengers Assemble moment of the internet and of pop culture and of what is popular and interesting and trending now. And I also think too, this will be such a cool thing years from now, because it'll almost serve as like a time capsule. Like, where these people were and what they're doing and what they look like now will be so different from 5 years from now, that to see them all together in this setting now, I think will be very crazy to watch later on. And also at the viewing party for the 360 music video is when she has the iconic quote, like, this is going to sound really cunty, but it's just so hard being ahead.
This is going to sound really cunty, but I genuinely am just saying it. It's like, it's hard being ahead, you know? It is hard. Like,
And this went so viral. And I think it was her really just leaning into like being proud of her artistry, especially after a lot of the interviews with Crash, where she really talked about how she felt so disappointed by like the experience of that album, how she had really prided herself on like doing something that she always felt was so different and so cutting edge, and how she didn't feel like she was able to put as much of that in herself into the music on that album, that she really wanted to create something she was super, super proud of. And I think that like really owning that, even before people had heard it, was like got people excited in a way that was funny. With that, we also have the Brat Deluxe version. And I am interested if the Brat Deluxe version was actually supposed to come out 3 days after the original album, or if she did it in response to Taylor Swift trying to block her on the charts. I don't know. I don't think we'll ever know. I just like I can't remember a time another artist released a deluxe version 3 days after the original version came out. But like it does, if that's why she did it, it does make sense. And I wouldn't blame her for that, because I think what Taylor Swift did was kind of crazy. But the Brat Wall starts to get painted white, right? Which again goes viral, because then everybody's like, oh, it's the death of the Brat Wall, blah, blah, blah. Which I think was another genius decision. Had she left it green and started painting it again, everybody would have known. So that's when it becomes a surprise. The second it starts getting painted white, everybody's going to see it this one last time. They're taking their last videos with it. They're posting it. They're doing these ironic funeral, blah, blah, blah. But then again, the Brat Wall gradually starts to get painted. So then all the tweets come back, right? Then people are speculating again. They're doing these ad libs, trying to put together what it says. And then we end up getting the deluxe version. So I also think with that too, again, she did this with the Lorde remix, just putting Lorde, like this was so smart. I think so much of genius marketing is like, you don't always have to be hitting the home run. Sometimes the best thing you can do is just give like a softball pitch to the audience and let them be the star, let them hit the home run. And great marketers don't always try to do the marketing. They let other people do the marketing for them. And that was the genius of the Brat Wall. And one of the things I forgot, the Brat Trucks, I thought was very interesting. So around London, there were these trucks with just the Brat green on it, and they were just like flashing different names. But I have a theory that charlixcx and Kesha are secretly working on a song together, and they are about to release it this year. And I have a few pieces of evidence that support this theory, because the Brat Trucks, there were Brat Trucks driving around London, right? Like people took videos of them, took pictures of them, blah, blah, blah. Except for some reason, one of the Brat Trucks said Kesha in the Brat color, in the Brat font. So everybody initially speculated like, oh, she's going to have a feature on the album. Then the album came out. And then everybody's like, oh, well, she's just going to have a feature on the deluxe version. The deluxe version came out. Still no feature. Well, as it turns out, charlixcx has an unreleased song called Victimless Crime that she had, I believe, recorded in 2015, but then I guess scrapped and never ended up doing anything with. Then in 2021, a demo of Kesha singing this song gets leaked. And then she even ends up performing it on stage one time. However, she had changed some of the lyrics in the verses, but the chorus was the same. So, but again, this is 2021. Kesha does not end up releasing the song either. So the theory is that both of them now have, a joint chorus. Kesha has the verse that she wrote. Charli has the verse that she wrote, and that they're going to release the song Victimless Crime as a collab song. So it won't be either one of their versions, but taking both of those versions and combining them together. And even if it's not this song, God, I hope we would get a collab between the two. I think that they are just so like, I don't know, like to me, Kesha feels like OG, like what charlixcx is going through right now. And I would love a comeback of Kesha. Like we need a big major Kesha comeback. It would be so much fun. And I feel like Charli and Kesha's like sounds would go so well together. Their themes would go so well together. So even if we don't get this exact song, we need a collab between the two. And then going back to just the Brat like logo and album, and really how, again, like all of these things masterfully came together to really just promote almost this like image, like this green Brat image felt everywhere. And one of the best ways that they did that was using the Brat name generator. So this was when they literally just created a website. I think you just Google Brat name generator and it just pops up and you can just type anything into it. So this makes it so all of these fans start changing their profile picture to it. Then even more genius, all of these brands start doing it, right? Because social media managers of whatever company see a viral moment on the internet, they got to tap into it somehow. They know that. So now they're all doing these meme things with their brands. Like there's this one campaign with this company, Field Roast, who did this giant billboard that says Brat and then worst. So it says Bratwurst. And the product they were advertising was their Bratwurst. And it went so viral. And it was like the easiest thing to do. I'm sure that this was like probably one of the cheapest campaigns they've ever made. Like they used a random free image generator and just printed it out and put it on a billboard. And then millions of people were talking about it because it was so funny. And I think just creating this Brat generator allowed for so many people to make their own memes about Brat, and it just snowballed. Like it went absolutely viral. I feel like anytime I open my phone, honestly, for the past month, like if I scroll on an Instagram story for 30 minutes, I will find a Brat meme somewhere. Or if you scroll on Twitter for like 30 minutes, like you will find a Brat meme. It's because it's so applicable. Again, talking about this color theory, how you can see anything of this shade of green, then use this Brat meme generator to create it and just put it on there. And the fact that her label like did that, so smart, so genius. Like, and again, I think so much of it was crafting this experience around this visual, this very, very, although kind of like simple and boring almost, it's like so distinctly recognizable. Like you will never see another album cover that looks like that. And she did so many funny things with this too, where she like on her Spotify and Apple Music, if you go and look at any of the other past album covers, they are all changed to this font in this image. And she even talked about one of the reasons that she like wanted to make a very simple album cover this time, and why she kind of was like annoyed when people were really criticizing it, was she felt that there's this like very weird expectation of female artists to be very like promiscuous and almost sexual sometimes on their album covers, and how she felt that was like very rooted in misogyny, and how so often like male artists would do these very like simple things too. So she wanted to do the most simple thing possible as an almost like homage to that, but kind of like poking fun at the misogyny of it all. And in turn, you see how like all of these things came together so masterfully, right? How like just creating this very visual experience around the music, then creating these settings around the music, right? The boiler room, the surprise performances where she is in these crowds of people, then having these collabs and features in the music videos, but also the music itself created like who this album is for, right? So you now see where it is, these party club settings, who it is, these, concept of an it girl, this brat mentality, and then how all of these things came together to create what we are now seeing, this wave of like bratsummer. And to me, that is how you marketed an album. Like it was so beautifully mysterious, I think was like such a great way to think of it, almost like mystery marketing of like trying to make people speculate and think critically and differently about what it is and what she's doing. And I think the fact that nobody ever knew these answers, they never knew what was going to be on the Brat Wall. They never knew if she was going to show up to this place. They didn't know who was coming out at the boiler room set. The fact that she was so good at keeping so much of this so close to her chest is what made it constantly viral. Like it's almost everything she did was like a surprise, and you would just wake up one day and find some like new crazy thing that Charli was doing. And I think other artists should really take note from this and look at it too as to how she created really genius stuff. Again, like I don't think the concept of this wall was like anything crazy. Like it's not like there are some music marketing things you see that are like clearly millions of dollars worth of production, but this is just painting a wall and going live on TikTok. Or just like the Brat generator is like a very simple website design, and how genius and like masterful this all came out. But I think that's all I have to say this week. Thank you guys so much for sticking tuned. This was part 2 of our series. I think my next video I really want to do on Sabrina Carpenter, just because I feel like the 3 like really cutting edge of people in pop right now, or at least really doing something new and like hitting a stride in such an interesting way, have been Chapel Roan, charlixcx, and Sabrina. And I think interesting too, like anytime I feel like I talk about the state of pop music with anyone, it's almost like those are the only three they want to talk about. And again, it's so crazy to me in a year with so much huge releases from artists. But thank you all for sticking around, and I hope you liked this little series. And also for my next video, I'm still my next videos after the Sabrina one, I don't really know what I'm going to do. So follow me on Instagram. I think I'm going to post a poll and just let you guys vote on what the next topic will be. But yeah, follow the Spotify, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see y'all next week. Bye.